Welcome to Voices from the Valley, where we meet and learn from the movers and shakers in and around the Merrimack Valley. And now your hosts, John Bachmann and Ben Tallberg.
Ken Michienzi.
Michienzi.
I just wanted to do it once.
Just one.
Yeah. But do you prefer Michienzi? Because you did mention that. Or
no.
Michienzi?
Michienzi. Yeah.
Ken Michienzi.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how I wrote it down this a few days ago.
Chen.
Michienzi.
Z-E.
Yeah.
That's phonetically. Yeah.
Well, when I was growing up, it was, all my teachers called me John Bachmann. And that was the easy way.
Yeah.
And even my parents at that point, my father every once in a while would say Bachmann, but it was always Bachmann, until I heard my grandfather was like, no, Bachmann, Joseph Bachmann, Bachmann. And now to hear somebody say Bachmann, what the hell is that?
No,
that's weird.
But it's our names.
Yeah.
We have to be proud of the names.
Yeah.
So, Ken Michienzi.
Michienzi.
You still screwed it up.
Still, Ken Michienzi.
Yeah. We've gotten all kinds of pronunciations over the... My favorite is McCheesy.
McCheesy.
Ken McCheesy.
That's a pretty cheesy joke. Waka, waka, waka. Oh, John's walking out now.
I got the nickname Kenny Machete because that was...
Oh, hey now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I love that.
Fits too. I like that one.
Yeah.
So Ken's coming to us from the Merrimack Company, and we chatted the other day, trying to get on the same page about everything with the Merrimack Company, which is an apparel company. Just to get us started, why don't you explain a little bit about what Merrimack Company is all about?
Sure. So the Merrimack Company is an environmentally responsible apparel and accessories company. So what that means is we use organic and or recycled materials as the primary textile for everything we do. So much, much smaller impacts on the planet. A lot of folks don't realize the fashion industry is one of the biggest polluters in the world. It's number 3 behind energy and transportation. Fashion comes in at number 3. So the materials we use have a much smaller impact on the planet, super high quality stuff that's meant to last a really long time, so you're not buying as much stuff. And then on the back end, I donate a portion of each sale to help clean and conserve the Merrimack River as well. So it's kind of, we look at it as a full cycle from start to finish. How can we be the most responsible towards the environment as we can?
That's freaking awesome. But before we get fully into Merrimack Company, and I know it's Merrimack Co., but do you go by Merrimack Company, Merrimack Co.?
The Merrimack Company.
Okay. You have a very interesting path towards Merrimack Company. Tell us that path, because it gets pretty wild. We have some big corporations that you work for.
It's not a super linear path. So if you look back 10, 15 years ago to see me here, I would be just as surprised as everybody else. But yeah, so I mean, I think if you go back, and my grandfather was an electrician, my father was an electrician. My grandfather owned a small electrical contracting company, Vincent Electric, in Burlington, Massachusetts, back in the day. And so all that's to say, I thought my destiny or my fate was to be an electrician. So I went to the Greater Lawrence Voc, studied electrical, went out on co-op, worked for my grandfather, did electrical, but all kinds of other stuff. I was basically just taking care of his properties, mowing the lawns, trimming the hedges, building showers, like whatever, any kind of handyman stuff that he wanted me to do. I realized that it wasn't for me. After doing it for a while, I didn't want to be an electrician, so I decided to go to college. And music has always been a passion of mine. So I went to Emerson College and initially was majoring in radio. That's why I went to Emerson. They got a great radio station and it seemed cool. To date myself, this was early 2000s. And if you or any of the listeners remember what was happening in the music industry back in the early 2000s, it was falling all over itself. This is when Napster and LimeWire were big. Everyone was stealing their music.
Not to cut you off, I had a radio show on The Voice, FM 91. Every one of my songs I played was off of Napster. I didn't even use the studio's CDs. I used my own shit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you know. Yeah. So you know. So the industry was collapsing, and I just was paying for school myself, and I couldn't imagine dropping 6 figures on an education or for an industry that might not exist by the time I graduate. And if it did exist, it's at least going to look a lot different from what I'm learning in school. So I pivoted. I switched over to advertising and marketing. I thought that seemed like a cool, exciting way to be able to focus on creative pursuits. I like to be creative. The thing about advertising that appealed to me is you get to learn about a brand, figure out the demographic. There's a whole bunch of research and analytics that then funnel into a creative process. And so I liked that. Graduated at the height, or right as the Great Recession was starting. So my timing was not super great. But I got a job as a marketing assistant as a nonprofit. It's called the School for Field Studies. They sent college kids out to various centers in the world to study the environment and environmental issues with the local population. And so that wasn't necessarily something I was interested in at the time, but I knew somebody who worked there. It was a friend, and they got me in, and I needed a job, so I took it. And it turned out to be really cool, and I learned a lot, and this was a very formative time for me. It's kind of first job out in a nonprofit, which I think was super crucial. I'm sure we'll circle back to
Roughly,
that.
how old were you at this time?
So this was right out of college, so I was 22.
22?
Yeah.
What year, roughly? 2003? 4?
This was 2006. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I graduated in 06.
Okay.
Yeah, so long ago now. And so that was a part to semi-full-time job. So it wasn't like 40 hours every week. It would flex a little bit depending on, like during admission season, I would be there 5 days a week. When it wasn't admission season, it was maybe 3, maybe 4. So I couldn't afford to pay my student loans because I was working part-time at a nonprofit, right? So and I had a 6-figure debt from a student loan. So I took a side job to help supplement the income and try to pay the bills. And that was at an Apple store. I walked into an Apple store one day. So it's like, this seems like a fun place to hang out for a little bit. Make some extra scratch. I knew nothing about Apple.
Little discount off an iPhone here and there.
iPhone had just come out. So everyone was still saying Apple had no business making phones. It was going to fail. They couldn't compete with LG or Nokia and stuff like that. But I don't think I had just missed it. They gave out free iPhones to the employees who were working there when it first came out, but I was a couple months afterwards, so I got nothing. But Apple ended up becoming the full-time gig. I couldn't support 2 jobs anymore. Apple was willing to take me on full-time, give me benefits, all that kind of stuff. I needed that. So I kind of pivoted from your regular Apple retail employee and then became a trainer. So started teaching workshops, started teaching folks how to use their computers to get the most out of it. Whatever they want, photos, email, help them with their small businesses, whatever it was they wanted to do, right? Loved doing that. Discovered I really had a passion for teaching and training. And then, long story short, pivoted into internal training. So I now was responsible for training everybody at the store, and then started doing some market level training. So my market was Upper New England, so I did all the new hire and onboarding for Apple in the Upper New England market.
Wow. So just to clarify that, you were doing what do they call it, the something bar.
There's the Genius Bar.
Genius Bar is where you started consumer-facing training.
So I think it's all maybe the same now. They've changed it, but back when I was there, they had a position that was the Genius Bar, which was tech support. And then they had what they called creatives who taught one-to-ones. And so I was a creative. And before that, I was a family room specialist. I'm doing air quotes. The family room specialist was part Genius Bar, part creative. So you would do a little tech support as well as teach some of the basic programs. Okay. And then from there, you would specialize and get like Pro App certifications or Genius certifications and stuff like that.
And then it went from the consumer facing to now you're training new employees that are going to be selling at the Apple stores.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw it neat. So this position didn't exist at Apple at the time. I was in the store and I said, hey, I think there's a need to train employees. Like nobody's responsible for that. There's nobody dedicated to new product launches, which Apple being super confidential, like the Apple employees, we were getting information about a new iPhone like an hour before we were set to sell them. So we had an hour to become the experts, and then as people came in, we're like, we know what we're talking about.
Right.
But yeah, so I think there's a need for somebody to manage that within the store, someone to do like the daily, we call it daily downloads, the morning briefings with what's going on. So my manager at the time was great. He said, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we carved out that path for me within the store. And then I'd like to take credit for it, but I don't know that I can. But 6 months later, Apple created that as a full-time position. So when it became a full-time position,
take the credit. You got it.
So, I moved into that. But the way that Apple did it was only a 6-month career experience, as they called it. So you would rotate into this position for 6 months, and then you would rotate out and somebody else would come in. So I did it for about 6 months. Then it became an official position. So I did it for another 6 months. And then at the end, it was like, okay, you're done. Go back to training. And that felt like a step backwards. I didn't want to do it. And so that was about the time, this was 2012 now. I was at Apple for 5 years. And this was the time that I had heard about Tesla. So Tesla was again, 2012. Nobody had really heard of Tesla at the time. They were just releasing Model S. I think they sold 2,000 cars that year in the entirety. And so I went and they were opening up a showroom in Natick, Massachusetts. And so I applied for a manager position there. I got turned down because the guy who was doing the interviewing was like, there was you and another dude. You were both from Apple. You had the same experience. You were pretty much the same. So we flipped a coin and we went with the other dude.
That's going to make you feel a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, at least I was up there. But so he was the regional manager for the Northeast, and he was like, stay in touch. We'd love to have you. Fast forward a couple months, they reached back out and said, hey, we've got an opening for you. Do you want to go manage the New Jersey store? I said, hell no, I don't want to go to New Jersey. But then some stuff in with life and personal stuff happened, and it was just time for me to go and kind of get out of New England for a bit, explore the next career path. So I called them up and said, you know what, I'll go to New Jersey. And they're like, well, your timing's really good because New York City just became available. Oh. And so it's like, sign me up.
Wow.
So I went to Manhattan and was a manager at their flagship store in Chelsea. Did that for a little bit. I didn't want to be a sales manager. My passion and my background is very much like teaching, training, education. So I was just a really greasy wheel. I said, like, I want to be in the training team. I took, I guess technically it was a step backwards, so almost like a demotion, but I convinced them to keep it as a lateral move. So I moved from an assistant store manager to inside sales. But the reason for that was it got me out west and it got me in the corporate office. And so once I moved out to the Bay Area, then I could literally like knock on the door. Well, there weren't doors, it was open office plan, but I was in front of people. And so I found out who the training team was. It was one woman, and then they hired like one dude, and I was just in front of them every day, like, I can do this, I can do this. So eventually they opened up another position. I joined the sales training team when it was just the manager and two people, and we were tasked with building the first sales training program for Tesla.
Wow.
So we did that, got to travel the globe, opening stores, teaching new folks, new employees, as well as existing employees who just had never had any real training before. Everything was quote unquote tribal knowledge, right? Like someone would learn and be like, I think this works, and then just kind of share it with somebody else. So we got to go and level set the company and kind of build that foundation. And then from there, after the sales training, I transitioned to a general learning and development team, so more of the HR side of training. And again, kind of carved out the path where I said, nobody's doing new hire orientation. Like, there's no one owning it. We're hiring a lot of people. We plan on growing a lot. Like, shouldn't we have somebody who's like a program manager running this? So then I self-nominated myself, right? So then it became me.
I like what you said, greasy wheel.
Yeah.
That was the greasy wheel. I never heard of that before, but that really
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, or you gotta advocate for yourself. Right?
Yeah.
If you're not willing to advocate for yourself, who's going to?
That's what it sounds like you were doing quite a bit, was just saying, hey, what about this? What about that? And just speaking up.
Yeah, so kind of identifying those problems and then saying, like, here's a problem. I think if we do this, like, it'll be great. And then they're like, okay, go do it.
Yeah, sometimes having a helpful solution helps, not just saying, hey, this thing's broken.
Oh, totally.
And then walking away. It's more like, hey, this thing's broken. I think if we did this, would that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I did that for a couple years. I lost track of time. And then similarly, like, built the team, scaled it globally. Super fun. Got to open lots of new stores all over the place. Got to go to like the Gigafactory in Reno, Nevada when it opened, and opened that. And then it started to become, I like the building stage of stuff when things are messy. And you kind of have to pull things together and do your best with few resources and build something and scale it up. It got to a point where it just kind of became managing it. Now it was like, okay, we've got the recipe. We're opening a new factory. Just drop the recipe over there.
Stale.
It became stale.
Yeah.
So I left. I was also really, really tired. If you see, like, on Twitter or X, like, what it's like working for Elon Musk, that's what it's like working for Elon Musk. He works 100 hours a week. He expects everybody else to do the same thing.
I can never call it X. I just want to put it out there. It's going to be Twitter. I'm going to continue to tweet.
You're not going to zeet?
No. Nope. It's a tweet.
Yeah.
Twitter.
It's
The
weird.
end.
Yeah. And so he's doing all kinds of other stuff now. And I think it's becoming more well known, like, what it's like to work for his company. Tesla was like that for a long time. So again, that's all to say I got burnt out. That's when I decided to go off grid for a little bit. I bought an RV with my partner at the time. She's a musician out in the San Francisco area. We had met. As I mentioned before, I always wanted to work in the music industry. I grew up playing some instruments, not super well, but well enough. And then she had been playing around San Francisco, had played some of the bigger venues out there. It was kind of like, I did San Francisco. What else is there now? So we bought an RV and started booking our own shows and did a very grassroots tour. We spent about 13 months on the road, booking our own shows, doing our own marketing. We were small business owners, like, hustling to try to do the thing. We booked and played about 180 shows over the course of a year.
Wow.
So it was a really ambitious schedule. Burnt myself out again. And then, so we decided that wasn't sustainable. So we landed in Nashville. We said, like, Nashville's a great place to do the music thing. We got there a couple months later and COVID hit. So that kind of changed that plan. I spent some time unemployed because companies weren't hiring. So I just got to spend some time fostering dogs and, taking it easy for a little bit. Ultimately, I went back into the tech space. I got a job at SoFi, fintech company. Many people know it from SoFi Stadium if you're a football fan. Was hired on as a senior manager of employee experience. So I got to build and manage some programs there. The main thing I was working on was their employee volunteerism program. So was creating that from scratch, which was super great because now you get to take company funds and money and put it in the hands of employees and go tell them to get engaged in their community to make it better. And so that was super exciting and really rewarding. I just couldn't make the transition back into corporate life. Punching the clock, being in front of, it was still remote, so being on Zoom meetings all day after having that taste of freedom, I just couldn't make the transition back in. So I left after 6 months, and that's what led us to the Merrimack company. I'd always wanted to do my own company. I never knew what it was going to be. As I mentioned, my grandfather had his own small business. My aunt and uncle owned a nursery that they started. My mom is a self-employed architect who runs her own business. So I kind of was always around
Entrepreneurs
in that mindset. So I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. After I quit SoFi, I moved back from Nashville to Massachusetts, landed in Lawrence, was in the Riverwalk Lofts, old converted mill building. Started doing a lot of inflection of like, what do I want this to be? What am I going to do? And I narrowed it down to like 3 things, core values that I knew were really important to me. And those were community, nature, and adventure. So I took those 3 things and said, how do I combine these to make a company? Because that's what's important to me. That's what I'm passionate about. And then sort of coincidentally or serendipitously, right, I was living in an old converted textile mill building right along the banks of the Merrimack River, looking out my window at downtown Lawrence and all the old mill buildings. And I said, I need to honor this history and legacy of the Merrimack Valley, but we're going to do it with the modern twist. And so that's where the Merrimack Company was born. And we focused again on honoring that legacy, but in a more modern and informed way, being more responsible with the materials and the manufacturing and everything that we do.
Now, I'm curious about this because I hear sustainable clothing and I think of, I don't know, a t-shirt made of paper. And you wash it once, it falls apart. But look, you're wearing some of the gear right now. I wouldn't know any difference. How would a consumer know the difference between sustainable apparel versus non? Hey, Ben, what's new with you?
Hey, buddy. So we have changed our name.
What?
Yeah, we've gone from Amesbury Foreign Auto to AFA Auto Repair. It's just more simple. This gives us the opportunity to show that we also work on domestic vehicles. So we're foreign and domestic now. We're looking to just, it's pretty easy. You see what we do, and it opens the doors to more customers that we can help. Because there's a lot of people that have an Audi, but they also have a Chevy. So this kind of shows that we're now AFA Auto Repair. We're based out of Amesbury, but we could be based out of Newburyport, Salisbury someday. Ooh. Hey, we could move around. So this takes away the Amesbury part, the foreign part, and it really should help us kind of grow. That's what we want to do.
Awesome. So, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
AFA Auto Repair.
Yeah, that's it. Here we go.
How would a consumer know the difference between sustainable apparel versus non-sustainable?
Yeah, that's a great question. I often joke with my customers when they come in, when I talk about like environmentally responsible gear, sustainable gear, I feel like people imagine a burlap sack.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head was.
Something like itchy, scratchy. And I think part of that is, again, I'll say back in the day, that's probably what it was. You were getting like rough, coarse materials, and that was kind of the quote unquote environmentally responsible thing to do. It doesn't need to be. And I think this is one of the things that I learned at Tesla was in order to convince somebody to do something different, your new product has to be better, not just a little bit better, but marginally better. So people aren't going to buy environmentally responsible clothing if it's itchy and scratchy and feels like a burlap sack. So you can't have any compromises. It's got to be super high quality. It's got to be soft. It's got to be comfortable. So the difference is like this, what I'm wearing now is in listeners, it's just a zip up hoodie. It's primarily made with organic cotton. And then there's a fleece lining on the inside that is blended with recycled polyester. The polyester is made from plastic water bottles. And so again, it's not really going to look or feel that much different from another high quality garment. But if you put it on, super soft, super comfortable, really durable, gonna last you a long time. And then has the added benefits of organic cotton, uses 90% less water than traditional cotton, none of the pesticides, herbicides, or other toxic chemicals. Recycled polyester, you're diverting plastic water bottles from oceans, streams, landfills. Lord knows there's enough plastic in existence already, so you can just use that. And then again, you're using 90% less water, half the energy, half the carbon emissions, and you're getting a product that looks and feels just as good, if not better.
Does that make it a lot more expensive?
It does make it a bit more expensive, but arguably, I mean, more expensive than what, I guess, right? Like, am I more expensive than fast fashion companies? Absolutely. And the difference there is if you're going to one of these quick fast fashion companies, you're going to get something and wear it 5 times. And that's statistically accurate. Like the average person wears an article of clothing 5 times before it ends up in a landfill.
Really? That's
I am the complete opposite.
I wear the shit out of everything.
Really
I
bums
have.
me out.
I bought my
Hardcore.
first pair of pants in the last 8 years just the other day. We were joking about it. Kristen's like, when the are you going to replace those? And
Wow.
I ripped the zipper right off. So I had to replace
I
them.
wouldn't
I
call
couldn't
my-
hang on to those.
I wouldn't call myself. I was just thinking of my fashion and stuff. But it ain't that great, but wow, yeah, if you're tearing jeans here. Can I move on to another question, though? You've 2021 or so, you're starting this brand new thing. You're getting ideas.
Yeah.
You've got the idea of doing all natural, organic type of clothing. Where do you start? Where do you go? How'd you find a garment maker, and what was the path there?
Started with the internet.
Yeah.
And my background is not apparel, so or manufacturing, right? So this was, it's a great question. It was all new to me. So the first thing I did was just kind of jumped online, started doing a bunch of research. And it all kind of, I feel like this was one of those things that like spider webs out. Like you learn a little bit of something and then you start to dive into that, and then a whole new world opens up and you're like, oh, cool. And then it just keeps going. You get deeper and deeper and deeper. So I first found a company through searching. I found a company who, they were a middleman, essentially. They were a printer, and they would pull in garments from other companies. And they had a quote unquote sustainable line. And so you could kind of go on and buy a blank. They would decorate it, and then they would do drop shipping. And it's like, this is great. I can find products that meets, my environmental requirements. They'll handle the screen printing, and then they'll ship it right to the customer as well. So I don't need to carry inventory. I don't need to invest a ton of money into carrying all that inventory. So it seemed like that made the most sense as a way to get started. What I quickly realized is I have really high standards. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and not being able to see garments before they went out to customers just made me super uncomfortable. Particularly a couple of the samples that I got back from them were done incorrectly. And so I was like, if these are the samples that I'm getting, I have
What the
no
hell's going to
idea
the
what's
customer?
going to the customer.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And so fortunately, like, I had the foresight to like kind of beta test this or like do a soft launch. So I started the Merrimack company in September of 2021. First couple months were doing logo, paperwork, foundational stuff, identifying manufacturers, all that kind of jazz. So right around the holiday season, I did a soft launch. I opened up the web store. We did products. It was basically friends and family who were buying it, because that's those are the only folks who knew I existed, which is great. It's a great focus group. And yeah, again, I just wasn't happy with it. And again, I was a squeaky wheel is the saying, not greasy wheel.
No, I know, but I like the greasy wheel because you were squeaking. And
I was
then
squeaking
You were
and I
getting
got
a
the
shit
grease.
ton of
Yeah.
grease. You turned into a greasy wheel. You see why I like that? I thought you.
The
I thought
mechanic
you were
loves
there
it.
all the
I
way.
should have just went with it when I
Yeah.
had the realization just now
greasy
that I
wheel.
said it wrong. I could have just played it off like I knew what I was talking about.
No, I loved it. I loved it.
So greasy wheel, squeaky wheel. I was talking to my rep at this company every day. I was like, this just isn't working. This wasn't right. You need to fix it, et cetera, et cetera. Whether she just got tired of hearing me or was trying to be helpful or both, she kind of like, here's where we get our stuff from. Maybe just go contact the manufacturer directly, right?
Do it yourself is what she said.
I mean, she was like, we want to fix this and make this right for you. This is where we get it from, but we're still trying to like, and when I heard where they get it, I was like, I'm cutting out the middleman. I'm going right to the source. So, so that's how I found a manufacturer. And so now they were manufacturing directly for me. I got the garments and then found a local screen printer who does really high quality screen printing and embroidery. So now I'm getting garments right from the manufacturer. We're doing the screen printing in-house. And now I can keep an eye
And then you're
on
shipping.
quality control. I'm holding the inventory.
Yeah.
I'm shipping it out to customers directly. The lead time doing the drop shipping through the other company, like, it was taking up to 2+ weeks for customers to get their t-shirt after they order it, which we're not accustomed as consumers. Like, we don't want to wait that long.
Amazon.
Yeah.
I want now.
I do the free. I don't pay for Prime for Amazon because they're so optimized that even their slow shipping gets to you in 2 or 3 days for free, right? And so that's what customers are used to. So again, this was just another, like, it's not good enough. I don't feel good saying, like, cool, you just spent $35 on a t-shirt from a company you never heard of. Maybe you'll get it in 2 to 3 weeks. So that didn't feel right. So now bringing it in-house, I could ship it out right away. Customers were getting it within 2 days, which is pretty standard. I could QC stuff. And then again, sort of fortunately, once I got a store and I started doing markets first, like pop-ups and vendor markets. And so now I have inventory on hand that I can do that with, which if I stuck with the drop shipping, I couldn't. And then when I opened up my store in Lowell, of course, now I have inventory that I can stack it with. So, it all just kind of came together. Tried something, it didn't work, and then through that, kind of pivoted and found the solution that did. That then opens up to other manufacturers who are in the similar space, and then we started doing more custom type stuff where they're making things specifically for me, using the materials I want. That fits, really nicely with the overall brand vibe.
I have a question because you're talking quite a bit about inventory. And for established businesses, inventory is that dirty 9-letter word that scares the hell out of them because there's a lot of money that's just held up over there. For new business, it's got to be that much scarier that you have so much invested in. We don't know if this product line is going to move or these sizes. How do you even work that through with a new business?
Yeah, it's been tricky, and it's been, again, as always, my timing is super great with everything. So I started this and trying to get inventory in 2021 when the supply chains from COVID were in a state of disrepair, to say the least, right? So now I'm trying to build up a supply chains and inventory, and everyone's backlogged and just doesn't have the stuff. So it's been a learning curve. I started trying to be real lean and just keep a small amount of stuff on hand. And then the nice thing about being small is that you can be quick. Where larger companies, right, like you sacrifice the speed. So I leverage the small size of a company so that we can be agile and we can be quick. And so I'll order small amounts of different items from manufacturers. And then if I notice it starts selling, we'll do a quick redo. And then I tend to be a bit squeaky. So I'll jump on with the manufacturer and be like, I know this is kind of last minute, but it would really help me out. You're my favorite. I actually just had to, I do some dog, I have a dog line of stuff. And so we have dog leashes. And so I was talking to my manufacturer who does, they have a recycling plant where they recycle climbing rope, turn it into dog leashes. And so that's what we use for our dog leash. So super strong, great dog leash. But again, you're not making anything new, right? Because it exists already. I'm trying to stock up for some big events in the holiday season. I need things turned around quick. And I mean, it is true. They are one of my favorite vendors because they're so on top of the stuff. And I was like, I need this and I need this fast. By the way, you guys are my favorite. I love working with you. And he's like, we shipped it out today. And I was like, what the hell? And he's like, well, you said we were your favorite. So I got it out right. So it's just managing. That's I joke, but in all seriousness, it's about managing those relationships, right? Having constant contact when you need things, when you don't need things, right? Just building those relationships up. So then when you are in a jam, like they're more willing to work with you and help you out because you've already established that relationship.
Relationships are everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But all right, we're 2 years in officially because of September. So we're 2 years in. You have two breeds. You have human line and you have dog line. Sure. Now I'm hearing. Yeah. How many SKUs are we talking about?
So that's the fun thing, right? Because I don't know off the top of my head, I'd have to think about it, but The fun thing about inventory, right, particularly for clothes, you do one shirt, you now have 6 sizes, so that's 6 SKUs. You do 2 colors, you're now up to 12. So across the board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. We're probably somewhere around 100 SKUs.
So still relatively small.
Still relatively small. And again, this is I run lean, and that's both to say I don't order a lot of items from the manufacturer at a time. I also haven't invested in a ton of different products. So we stuck with the staples: t-shirts, long sleeve tees, hoodies, hats, beanies, dog leashes, dog toys, socks, simple, straightforward, basic stuff that everybody, you can never have too many hoodies. You can never have too many t-shirts. So sticking with that essential stuff that everybody needs. I tried to branch out into some more niche stuff like yoga totes, and they sit on the shelves. Right. So yeah, keeping relatively small, relatively manageable, so that we're not overextending ourselves.
Kind of like that burger joint that just kind of does burgers and fries, and they don't really go too crazy with a ton of stuff on the menu and kind of muddy it up.
Yeah, I think you gotta do what you do super, super well. And so we do what we do super well, and then we can start expand. I'm looking at some more items now as we're moving into the holiday season, and so we'll probably flip some things over, and we'll start introing some new stuff to keep it fresh. But then we'll phase those out, and we'll start doing, I think, more limited drops of things.
So you continue to talk about being lean, and you need to be agile to make the adjustments. What is the vision in 2, 3, 5 years? I hate the question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, but what is your vision for the company in 5 years?
The vision is big. If you're going to be dreaming, you might as well dream big. So, there are a couple pieces and a couple components to it. I see the Merrimack company being on a scale similar to something like Eastern Mountain Sports back in the day, maybe like an LL Bean. I don't see any reason why we can't get
Love
there.
It.
It's going to take some time, maybe not 5 years, but I don't like to put the time stamps on stuff, but I'm going to do it as quickly as humanly possible, as quickly as I can. So I want to be sort of at that scale. That said, I want to do more. Obviously, we're going to adhere to those 3 main principles: community, nature, and adventure. Those are going to guide us. I want to bring the manufacturing in-house. I come from Apple and Tesla, who are both very vertically integrated. And I see the benefits of being super, super vertically integrated. I'm also maybe just a little bit of a control freak, so I think that that lines up and stacks up. But again, that's in my mind the way that you ensure really high quality stuff is by being with it every step of the process. So I'd love to bring the manufacturing in-house, and I'd love to bring it back to the Merrimack Valley where it started, literally where it started. We've got a lot of open mill spaces, both in Lawrence and Lowell. I'd love to see those full in humming again. I want to expand the retail presence. The retail presence right now have a shop in Lowell at Mill Number 5. For those who are familiar with it, we're the first shop right off the elevator. So come visit Mill Number 5 and check us out there. I want to expand the retail presence, and my big dream is to have kind of a flagship store that works as a community center. And what I mean by that, not only are we selling our product there, but you're coming in and you have the opportunity to take a workshop, or less similar to the Apple Store model, right? Learn how to use your computer, learn how to use your photos, so you get the most out of it, you're the most happy with it. But come take a workshop on like camping 101, backpacking 101, hiking 101.
That's brilliant.
We can get
That's awesome.
we can get more. It's also going to sell from a business standpoint. You're going to sell a lot of stuff, right? Like Apple proved that. It was a loss leader for Apple. You get people in, you sit down with a creative like me. I teach you how to use the computer. The more you understand and know your computer,
You're
the
never
more you're
going to
going
buy
to do
another
with
one.
it, the more you're going to do with it, you're going to be a loyal customer and buy another Mac, but you're also going to start buying all the peripherals and accessories and stuff like that, right? But I want to foster that sense of community in the store. If we're thinking really big, like you'd have a rock climbing wall in there, you'd have a community garden out back. I'd love to do there's in the food industry, there's the big, like from farm to table. I want to do farm to closet. And again, I don't see any reason why we can't do that. Obviously, it's going to take some time.
So you'd harvest your own materials too?
Cotton,
Right out back.
Recycling the water bottles. Why not, right? So that's the vision, right? Like to bring it all back, have that sense of community, have a strong workforce, continue to donate to charitable causes like cleaning and conserving the Merrimack River. I really want to see the Merrimack River be used as a great place of recreation, and people not worrying about like how dirty or contaminated it is. And I think that's one of the things I saw when I was on the road trip, right? Like you go to different communities. Oftentimes you had these clothes brands that celebrated the community. Like when I lived in Oakland, there was Oaklandish. Everybody who lived in Oakland had an Oaklandish shirt, and they donated to under-resourced schools. When I was in Nashville, there was the 615 Project who kind of did the same thing. Everyone in Nashville had a 615 shirt. I came back to the Merrimack Valley and I see an opportunity for that there. This is an area so rich in history and culture, which I think we take for granted sometimes, and I'd love to see people celebrating that and representing it and be proud to wear something from the Merrimack company like on their shirt.
I think a lot of people will cling to that idea, but not only consumers, but also employees. You stick it on every wall, your vision. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing for employees to be part of that, which would attract more people to help you and your cause. So
for
good
sure.
for you. Sounds awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Have you ever considered any, and this is just going down vision path now.
It's my favorite path. Yeah.
John, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Ben?
Hey, so how long has Norwood Insurance been around?
Norwood Insurance has been around forever. We've been protecting families and businesses in the Merrimack Valley for over 150 years. So if people in the Merrimack Valley need to insure their homes, their autos, their businesses, you just need to look to us, Norwood Insurance Agency.
Got it.
It's my favorite path. Yeah.
Co-branded apparel. Mm-hmm. Like we buy apparel in the agency, and it's typically either from a local guy that we work with or one of the big companies. How much better would that be within Merrimack company to be able to do something like that? I'm intrigued.
I fully agree. I think it would be better.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit there.
So the short answer is yes. I have thought a lot about that in the early days of the Merrimack company, which I guess we're still in, but the early days. I thought a lot about this and had conversations about this with local business owners as well. A fair amount of companies came up to me and asked that exact same question, like, hey, could we do a co-branding thing? I'm like, absolutely, we can. Similar like Patagonia used to always have the Patagonia vests for banks and stuff, right? You'd see that all the time. So I'm 100% down to do it. The sticky point so far has just been cost. Oftentimes when companies want to kind of get apparel and stuff for their employees, right? You're ordering a lot. You're looking at that bottom line. Because I'm at where I'm at in terms of scale, just as a smaller company, as well as the materials and the quality we use, my stuff tends to cost a bit more. And so that's kind of been the sticking point. I've essentially priced myself out of some of those negotiations.
That's the thing is you need your margins too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things, like honestly, Bangladesh, that's one of the big ones we see quite a bit. And it drives the price down so far. Material, that's where it's shipping from, et cetera. But I think there's something to be said. In the 80s, it was a big deal about made in the USA labels. That was a big deal. Well, what if it's sourced from our backyard? I think there's some value behind that too. So,
yeah. No, I fully agree. And I think as part of the vision, the goal is to get there. I think what will help is, one, continuing to establish the brand of the Merrimack company so people are more eager to do that co-branding. And then at the same time, scale my operations up so that I'm at a point where I can compete more in terms of pricing and cost.
It makes perfect sense there. Absolutely does. Obviously, there's a lot of hurdles starting a new business. For the listeners, for the viewers, what's some of the real tough ones that you're like, almost shut you down and said, forget about it? What were those and how did you circumnavigate those?
Yeah, so I think, I'll fully transparent. This summer almost shut me down. And it's because I made a really big bet and it didn't pay off. And so kind of the background or context of that is, as I mentioned, I have my shop in Mill Number 5 in Lowell. Lowell, as much of the valley does, it gets really quiet during the summer months. All the UMass kids have gone home and dissipated, so we don't see a lot of traffic in the store in the mill during the summer months. So I knew I needed to supplement that in some way, and through looking at opportunities, I was looking at various markets and pop-ups. I was looking at opportunities, and one that had kind of come up was, long story short, was to have a mobile store at the Merrimack Premium Outlets in Merrimack, New Hampshire. And so I met with a leasing agent, super nice. We chatted about it. It seemed like it would be a mutually beneficial thing. They didn't have any like actual storefronts available at the time because they were all full. And I don't know if you remember this past summer, they had the landslide with some rocks collapsing, which closed a certain section of it. So all that's to say they didn't have a storefront for me. But in talking, we kind of they did have like a mobile truck program where you could park a truck out front and sell from essentially in front of the buildings. So it seemed like it was going to be great. I thought it would be a great opportunity. I went out and bought a small school bus, converted it into a mobile retail store, got it all branded up really nice, loaded it up with inventory, drove and parked in front of the Merrimack outlets, and crickets, and nothing happened. So it was a really big investment.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm not like, this isn't to knock the outlets or anything, but
Sure.
they were all really nice and super helpful. And what I quickly realized, and in retrospect feel silly for not thinking about, is that the demographic is just off. I was thinking that you've got people there clothes shopping at the Merrimack outlets in Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Merrimack.
And the Merrimack company would stand out and people would want to buy and shop local. The reality of it, I think, at least from what I saw, was that the demographic there is looking for really great deals on brand names. And so with that context, I just can't compete with a Nike, Columbia, Under Armour when they're running a 50% off sale.
So no insult meant by this. It's the absolute opposite. It's a non-brand name or one that they're not used to at a higher price.
Exactly.
The complete opposite of, yeah.
So, right. So why, like if you have the option of buying a Nike t-shirt for $10 and you know Nike,
Or the guy that's out in the parking lot right there in that bus.
$35 for a t-shirt from a dude in a bus that you've never
Yeah,
heard of
you don't know what
before.
that symbol means
Right,
or
like-
whatever. Yeah.
So in retrospect, it makes perfect sense to me now that it was a failed experiment. But obviously it was a considerable investment into the bus and the inventory and the licensing and permitting to sell on site there. So that was scary. But I broke my lease. Nobody was happy about it, but I had to do what I had to do. Because if I didn't, I think we would have lost the company. But I broke the lease and then was able to quickly pivot into doing some markets in Boston.
Still using the bus? Do you still have that?
I still have the bus. It has been used less as of late. I'll be at the Topsfield Fair next week, and I haven't got 100% confirmation yet, but I think we're like 90% confirmed that I will be bringing the bus to the Topsfield Fair and setting it up there. So I'm excited about that.
Well,
I
there
also
might be a
moved
smash up derby too that you could just,
I love
these fairs.
that idea. That would be fun.
But I do see, like, I could see the value of that since you already have the investment into things like the Haverhill Farmers Market, the Amesbury Farmers Market, where they have their tents out there. But if you pull up with the van, like,
it seems
it's
organic.
stimulating, and
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So that's a lot of folks have been like, I'm sure like when you own your own business, like people are like, you should do this.
The ideas come from free advice, baby.
Cool. Thanks. Which I love, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love brainstorming conversations. But a lot of folks have been like, well, you should sell the bus and get your money back. And I'm like, I'm not quite ready to do that because I do still think there
There's
can be
still value there. Yeah.
some use for it. Just having the flexibility to drive and pull up anywhere. And if nothing else, like, I'm bringing a ton of inventory with me to the Topsfield Fair.
Yeah.
I just load it in there, and it's like a van now at this point. So we're going to hold on to it for a little while longer, but that almost broke us. And fortunately, I was able to pivot into some of the Boston markets. The Boston markets have been doing really well. And so kind of dug out of that hole from early summer in the first half of the year now. And the second half of this year has been great and is looking to be super, super great.
Awesome. Holiday time, a big season for you historically?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got essentially one holiday season under my belt. The first one was the soft launch, which was something. But yeah, last holiday was really good for us. I had the store over at the mill, and it was a smaller spot. We've since moved into a bigger location two bigger locations. We moved into one and then moved again. So we're in a bigger, more prime location within the mill. So I think that's going to be really great. Then last year we also did the shops at the Tuscan Village.
Yes.
They did a 6-week holiday market. So that was super good. So I'm planning on doing that again.
Van there too, instead of a pop-up.
I'm going to ask that. We'll see. I'm going to ask, let me park the van right up against
Joe
the
Farrow's
side
a big
of
car guy, man. He has all his car shows up there, right?
He does. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Those fancy Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell him it's Italian.
So, yeah.
It would be
Autobus.
late.
Yeah. So park that right up against the side of LL Bean and siphon off all their customers.
Hell yes.
No. But no, we did great there last year, so I'm really excited to do it again. Topsfield Fair was great for us last year. I've got a bunch of markets throughout October. We've been doing an Amesbury market on Wednesday nights now, which has been getting really good. So I feel like now we've kind of found the recipe for what makes for like where my people are, right? Like where my customer base is. Because it's relatively niche, right? In terms of people who are shopping for outdoor gear and then kind of like within this price range. So we're starting to find kind of that recipe of where folks are at. And then once they get the stuff on, they love it and they come back. And a lot of my customers have everything that I make. And so now the trick is like flipping over the inventory enough so I can keep them happy.
Are you online too?
Of course. Yep. Yes, it's themerrimackcompany.com. And so we've got an online presence. We can ship orders out anywhere. We do free shipping for anything $75 and above. Other than that, it's just a flat $5 shipping rate. So yeah, you can jump online. And for anybody listening, if you want, you can use the promo code CLEAN15. That's
Clean 15.
Yeah, 15 is spelled out. So not the number, but spell it out. CLEAN15.
You'll get how to spell 15. Clean.
That'll get you 15% off an
That was
online
last
order.
episode.
Still, every
Still
episode
funny.
is St. John.
The one thing that I'm super intrigued about, Ken, is your thought about bringing back manufacturing to the Valley again. Because Amesbury, Haverhill with the shoes, Lowell, Lawrence, and people talk about it a lot, but it seems like you really have the vision. Like you have the structure there. It's just a matter of getting it that next step too. So I'm excited for that.
Thanks. I'm excited too. And I think just, I totally took this for granted growing up here. Like I grew up in Methuen, so in and around the Merrimack Valley. But this is where American industrialization started, right? That's where the American Industrial Revolution started, right in Lowell in the 1820s. It was the first planned textile mill town. And then Lowell and Lawrence were essentially the Detroit or the Silicon Valley of that time. And so I love that we live on that history, and I really would love to honor that and kind of bring it back, but again with that modern twist.
Freaking love it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. So just gonna get some funds. That's all part of the process, right? As we start growing, and we'll look for investments and opportunities to be able to do that. So,
are you looking for investors, or are you just waiting on sales?
So right now, I'm not actively looking for investors. Again, me being the control freak that I am, I don't want to like give up any percentage of the company, and I don't want to have
like Shark Tank. You go on Shark Tank?
Yeah, exactly. You give up 25% of the company or 30% of the company. I'm super inspired by Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia. And so he was able to build Patagonia without giving away a single percentage of the company. He owned 100%. And then recently, I think it was a year ago, it just passed the year anniversary, was he donated the company essentially into a trust so that Patagonia can continue to live its mission. And so it wasn't about like he could have sold it and made a cool couple $1 billion.
Hell yeah.
But I find him super inspiring, and so I kind of look to him as a little bit of a role model within this space, right? Of like how to build this type of company, do it responsibly, without giving away like your whole company to do it. And so that's kind of the approach that I'm taking as well. If somebody comes along and there's the right deal that makes sense and it allows us to fill those factories up and start making stuff here, absolutely we'll consider it. But
all offers are accepted.
Considered.
Not accepted. So you brought up kind of like a mentor, but who do you have locally that you look up to? Who do you lean on locally that help you out?
So outside of my like immediate, I have to say my family and friend group are incredibly supportive, and I couldn't be here without the support from my family and friends. So that has been a huge lifeline, and so I'm so grateful for that. As far as like mentors in the area, I think one was Frank Cann. And he passed recently, but he was a business owner. He owned FH Cann here in the Merrimack Valley. Super successful company. He's been a longtime family friend. I'm 39 years old. I've known him for over 30 years. So he was there for essentially as long as I can remember. But all that's to say, when I came back to the Merrimack Valley and said I'm starting a business, he was right there to like offer advice. He paid for a couple months of advertising for me. He was trying to line me up with deals in his network. He got me on another podcast and an article in a newspaper, and then was just there to kind of talk to and bounce ideas off of. So he was super helpful in that first year or so as I was kind of getting started up. I wouldn't say there's necessarily too many in the area outside of Frank, but my old boss from Tesla was a huge mentor. We've stayed in contact after I left Tesla. That was back in 2018. We stay in contact and just call up and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm kind of dealing with. And she's so smart. And so just kind of like throw out like 1.5 million different like scenarios or paths you can follow. So I love brainstorming with her. So she's been super helpful as well.
That's awesome. You could always tell her, place a big T-shirt order. Because those
like
those Bay
that
companies,
helps.
they're all about the T-shirts, man.
Yeah, she's moving into or has moved kind of into retirement now. But yeah, I'll go back to Tesla, or everyone I know from Tesla is at Rivian now. If you're familiar with Rivian,
Oh, really?
the other electric,
moved
they're
over?
all at Rivian now.
Do you think that was because of Elon, or is it just the way that Elon pushes and pushes, or any reason why?
So
A little off subject, but
no, happy to talk about that. So I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think the people that I worked with at Tesla, myself included, we loved the mission, right, of electric cars that are better than gasoline cars in essentially every way: speed, performance, safety, efficiency, right? Like, loved the mission, loved the vision, but the work culture was hard. And so a lot of people would work at Tesla for about 2 years and then move on because it was a really tough organization to stay at long term. I went 5 years, and that was a lot, to say the least. And so I've talked to my friends who are at Rivian now, and they say, like, working at Rivian is all the good things about Tesla, but with a positive work environment and a great culture, where they feel more supported and can do their best work.
are they pushing the vision also, the Rivian? Are they also doing the vision of Tesla, like the electric and the great for the earth and all that stuff?
Yeah, and I think the twist that Rivian has is that it's they call adventure vehicles.
Oh, okay.
So it's totally my demo now. It's it's the people who are driving Jeeps and Tacomas,
Right.
and doing the overlanding and going camping and national parks and stuff.
Got a
like
beard.
that's their beard. The full beard, the flannel, yeah.
We're actually writing one in the agency right now. Somebody just ordered it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think deliveries this week or next week or something
Nice.
like
Oh,
that.
that's just like
But the funny thing
they're
is, though,
beautiful, yeah.
is Massachusetts is so crazy with insurance. We're the only state in the union that has different rules than everybody else. That
sense.
Rivian doesn't understand it. They're like, we're just trying to ship this out. Show us proof of insurance. Well, in Mass, we don't have proof of insurance. Sorry, that doesn't work. You give us the paperwork, and then we'll prove it. So we're dealing with them right now.
Nice. Yeah. I remember that back in the Tesla days, we went through that at first too, and then like they built a whole insurance team to like work.
Most
And then
companies
they
have a
brought-
Massachusetts team.
Yeah, because you have to,
Really?
right?
Yeah,
Because it's so
Massachusetts.
different.
Idiots.
Massachusetts always, yeah. We do some fun stuff.
Yeah, but the Rivians are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I just wish I could afford one. I can't.
Right there with you. That'll be after the bus. That'll be the next company vehicle.
Is this an electric bus or is this a diesel?
This is the old Chevy. Was it G3500 or something?
Okay.
It's got 240,000 miles on it. Runs like a champ.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Who does the work on it for you?
Knock on wood, I haven't had to have any work done on it yet other than the inspection.
Sweet.
But I think we might need some brakes soon.
Oh boy.
I know a guy. I know a guy.
I don't think we can get in the door. It's pretty big. Hey, so you said you had a website. Do you go on Amazon and sell any of the stuff there? Is it worth like letting your stuff go to Amazon? I guess the reason why I ask, because I go to, let's say I'm looking for a phone holder, and like there's this place that I know of that's small, niche, and they sell phone holders. Or there's Amazon. I'm looking for that phone holder with that name brand, whatever the hell it is, on Amazon. And there's a lot of companies that do that, and then there's a lot of companies that do not. And I think the quality is part of it. They don't want to damage the quality and the brand itself. What are your thoughts towards all of that?
So I'm in the camp right now where I do not do Amazon. And I think part of the rationale for that I have around that, again, is wanting to control my brand story, and the message. And I feel right now just kind of letting it out into empty space it just isn't necessarily the best thing for the brand, and I don't want to cheapen the brand or the reputation. So I think particularly in these early stages, I want to keep a really tight grip on the brand and on my story. I'm a fan of Simon Sinek. If you're it's become so cliche now, right? But like, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yes.
And I think that's especially true when you're in a commodity business like t-shirts. Like, what's the story? Like, it's a great t-shirt. There are other great t-shirts too, but like, what's the story behind it? What's connects you to that shirt? What connects you to the brand? And so for us, it's the logo, it's the story, it's the give back component. And so I want to be able to share that story in the proper way, right? So that we build the brand correctly.
That is a great answer. It is. I loved your answer right there. I really did. Like, so do we ask the legacy question? What's going to be your legacy? Like, what do you want to leave behind? We kind of did. I know your vision. Your vision is huge. What about you yourself, Ken? What do you want to be known for years from now, or if you have kids, or when you have kids, or whatever? What do you want them to know about you, or what's your legacy going to be?
I guess that's for other people to decide.
What do you want them to think? It's your chance.
So I think, if I'm looking back on it, I think what would mean, putting myself in the future, right? Like, old man rocking chair on a porch, like, looking back. And I think what would mean a lot is if I can make a big impact in the community. Again, thinking about those values, community, nature, and adventure. If I can make a significant impact in any one of those things, but ideally all three, I think that would be great. I'd love to, again, be somebody who lifts the community up, is seen as like a resource and an advocate for the community, who does the right thing, and kind of leads by example and leads by influence. So when the Merrimack company is like the size of, your LL Beans or Eastern Mountain Sports or whatever, we're going to do things, we're going to continue to do things right. Pay fair wages, put employees first, put people first, put the planet first. And I think similar to a lot of the stuff that Patagonia does, Patagonia is known as the responsible company. They have books out on how to be the responsible company. Wow. And no one's perfect, right? But like, they check a lot of those boxes. And so if I could be in a similar position of that, and to say like, you own a company, why aren't you investing in, I'll blatantly shame people, right? Like, why aren't you investing back into the community that lifted you up? I joke about the shaming, but we'll like lead by influence is what I want to do. And I'd love for people to look and kind of remember that.
Cool. Well, I think you're on your way anyways. You have the foundation set up, man. I see huge things for you and the company. How do we get these pieces of apparel into the hands of the listeners, the viewers? What's the best way? Is it coming down to the mill? Is it coming online?
Yeah, you got a couple ways. Yes to all of the above. You can buy it anywhere. Now, online is a great place. TheMerrimackCompany.com. You can go there, pick out anything, and like I said, we'll ship it to you pretty quickly. And again, if you're shopping online, use the promo code CLEAN15. That's all spelled out. That'll get you 15% off your first online order. Your other option is come and see us at the mill number 5. We're there Thursdays through Sundays. So you got the opportunity to come in, touch it, feel it, try it on.
So wait a second, Thursday through Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not open 5 days a week or 7 days a week. No,
so the shops at the mill are open Thursday and Friday from 5 to 8.
Okay.
10 to 8 on Saturday, and then 10 to 5 on Sundays.
Okay.
So you can come find us there, touch it, feel it, check it out. I'm confident you'll be very pleased with it. And then keep an eye on our Instagram, because we're popping up all over the place at various events. So the Instagram as well, the handle is The Merrimack Company. Keep it nice and simple and easy to remember. But we're going to be at a lot of events. So depending on when this airs, you may be able to find us at the Topsfield Fair. We'll be in the Trade Center look for the big green bus. Can't miss it. So you can come check us out there. We'll be at the Artisan Market on the Greenway in Boston next couple of Saturdays in October. We'll be at SOA Market in Boston on Sundays throughout October. We'll be at the Amesbury Market at Beowulf Brewery the next few Wednesdays. And then, while not official yet, we're planning on being at Tuscan Village for the holidays in addition to the mill as well. So lots of opportunities to come find us.
Ken's a busy man.
I'm tired thinking about it.
Yeah.
But super excited. It's going to be a good couple of months for us.
I know we were getting pretty close to wrapping up, but this is probably going to go down a completely different path. I'm just super curious how a company can say over X number of dollars of your order, now we can make it free. How is that sustainable to a company? That if we go over $75 in my order, you're making it free now instead of charging me the shipping fees. Or other companies, you go online, spend $250 and now it's free. How is that possible?
You just do it. I don't know.
Okay.
No. So with my markup on items, once the shipping, most of my customers right now are in the Merrimack Valley because that's where our marketing is. That's where I am. That's the group I'm targeting. And so shipping realistically isn't costing me all that much because I'm shipping orders pretty locally. And so given my profit margins on each item, I've planned enough that once we hit $75, I can eat those couple bucks in shipping cost. One, obviously, it incentivizes people to spend more money. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I would rather spend $10 more on an item than to pay $5 on shipping.
I do the same.
Right, to qualify for the free shipping.
Well, the reason it came up, my son's a hockey player. Pure Hockey does it over $100 or $150. And I'm looking at this new hockey bag that's $250. The thing's massive.
Hockey
for
bags,
them to ship, it's got to be $30, $40, $50 to ship it from wherever their warehouse is. How the hell can they make that free now that it's over?
Yeah,
because it's built in enough.
It's built into the margins. I often worry about like Chewy, right? I've got a dog and I buy
Chewy.
the big 40-pound bags of dog food, and that ships free. And like that's a 40-pound bag of dog food.
Box, and that you're paying for the size of that box.
Yeah, and the weight, and that's like
how the hell do they afford that?
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you get deals for shipping? Do you negotiate shipping costs?
So through, I use Shopify as my back end. So they build the website and handle all the back end stuff for the store. Super great. They negotiate deals with the various carriers. And so if you're a member of like Shopify, I think Square does the same thing. They're all kind of more or less the same. But yeah, they negotiate deals with the carriers. And so then depending on which plan you have with your back end, you qualify for a certain rate of discounts on the shipping. There are also, as I dove in, there are plenty of others. Like there's a company called Pirate Ship, and there's a whole bunch of other ones.
Pirate Ship.
Yeah.
Seems scary.
All their marketing is like, matey, like you saved $5 on it. Their branding's pretty cool. I used them for a while, but they do kind of the same thing where they negotiate with the carriers and get you certain deals. So, cool. It typically works out.
What's a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
A lot of people think it's R, but it's the C, matey.
Shut it down.
Yay!
And on that
note, they get worse as the day goes on.
We can move into the dad jokes if you have got.
Oh, I'm ready for
plenty
it.
lined up.
I'm actually kind of in the algorithm on my TikTok. Mm-hmm. The couple of guys drinking the coffee mug, telling jokes back and forth.
Yeah,
love those guys.
I get those too.
Yeah. Love them. Love them. All right, I think I've wasted enough time with those bad jokes right there. Ben, what do you think? We wrap this sucker up?
Yeah, I learned a lot from Cann. I got a big vision for my shop. I think next, I haven't actually thought of it. I got to come up with a vision, but I think it's super important for the employees. Mm-hmm. To be quite honest with you, getting consumers to come in and buy my stuff, whatever. that's cool. But for my employees that are with me every day, I do. Legacy is huge for me too. I want to leave a good imprint on them if they're with me every day. So like something with like, I would love to do something with like the homeless, like just like.
Yeah. Are you, I know we're wrapping up, so you can cut this if you want. But like, one of my favorite business books was Drive by Daniel Pink. Are you familiar with that one at all? So Drive is, the premise of the book is how do you motivate employees? Because that's a lot of what I did as a HR leader, was how do you keep people motivated? Yeah. And I think he had the best sort of simple synopsis of it. And there's 3 things to keep a motivated employee. And it's autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? So if you give your people autonomy to make their own decisions, they feel like they have some control in decision making. Mastery, the ability to learn and grow and get better and perfect a skill. And purpose, that vision. What greater good are you working towards? If you can line those 3 things up for an employee, you have a super motivated workforce.
I don't want to say anything more because I'll just dumb down the rest of it. So leave it there. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
No, but Ken, this has been awesome. I appreciate you coming out here and learning all about it. And just like Ben said, the massive vision you have. Yeah, it's one thing to set 2, 3, 5-year goals like I asked, but you were talking about world domination. And I think that's what we have to do with all our businesses is have that ultimate stretch goal for us too.
Shoot
so.
for
And
the
now
stars.
it's out there in the open, so I'm accountable.
That's right.
Yes.
Accountability is huge.
Yes, absolutely is.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
thanks, Ken.
Thank you, man.
We appreciate it.
Awesome. This has been another episode of Voices from the Valley. If you'd like to be a guest or know someone that would be a great guest, send us an email at voicesfromthevalley@gmail.com. Want to learn more about Ben Tallberg and AFA Auto Repair? Head over to afaautorepair.com or call 978-388-5959. Want to learn more about John Bachmann and Norwood Insurance Agency? Head over to norwoodinsurance.com or call 978-372-5921. Thanks for tuning in to Voices from the Valley.